Okay, so we've got these beautiful, soft, summery landscapes tonight, and I'm demonstrating that in pastel pencil. Whatever you're working in, it will be really enjoyable. We've got obviously there's a lot of layers to this sky because I've got all of these kind of clouds over the top. What I'm thinking is just going to kind of separate out. Um, this is probably a bit bigger than a third, just where the landscape is and how where it meets the sky, and that's probably all I'll put in for the moment. I've just gone one shade lighter with, or one shade slightly different with my line, just so I can easily smudge that in like that, and it just goes to completely if I want to. There you go. Yeah, so it might be a while since we've come back to pastel, so just a reminder, I've gone for a blue background. The reason is I can use that to let it come through and enhance a little bit some of the picture that I've got there. I may still put a few little blues to lighten them in. The biggest thing we've got to contend with where we have, this is probably one of the most challenging skies in terms of not letting the blues and yellows blend together, because we will end up then with a green sky. So whatever we put underneath, if we put, say, if we did do enhance this with a little bit of blue or whatever, we just want to make sure it's well fixed in. We can change the we can, not go too far into the clouds or whatever, and just be really gentle if we're putting any colours over the top, just kind of be much lighter as we're going over the top with those warmer colours, so that we don't get this green sky. And that's pretty much it really with this. I'm going to work top down. The reason being, it just avoids all this scraping off with your hand with the pastel and then getting it all up your sleeve and then it coming off. So I'm going to work and get my sky in first, build up the sky and then come down. But it's a very, very enjoyable thing to get into, and really quite soothing. So I am just going to bring in just a little bit of blue in here. Again, depending on the paper you've got, will depend on how much you want to add. You might want the tooth of the paper to come through, you might not. So if you like the texture, then let that come through and enjoy it. And if you don't, you just build it up a little bit more thickly. I'll just do it just for example there, so that you can't see, so it becomes very smooth. So it's how much. Sometimes if you don't put enough on, it's difficult to maneuver the pastel. So you need to make sure there's enough that you can smudge about, because that's part of the really good part of the the enjoyable bit. And also make sure you've got something handy for your fingers, and a tissue to wipe off as well the wet. So I'm just bringing in a little bit of blue to enhance there. I've made sure it's well fixed in. I'm going to bring a bit in this side here, and I'm trying to look at what comes first. Now, normally, obviously, it is the sky, so it's lighter here. So I'm going to try and replicate that lightness. Just bring that in a little bit. So I don't have to. I could just let this whole paper shine through. So this looks like white, but it's actually a very light blue. You can even build two colours up. And again, testing. So if you're not sure, test those colours. Like quite often we have to layer up. So I'm just layering up those two actually. I'm not worried about those smudging together in a certain way. The reason being they're the same tone, and I'm happy for those to smudge together. So I think I will. I know it's not that colour, but I really like it. So again, making sure that we're bringing joy to our piece of artwork and our individuality, which is so important. Bringing in those colours that you just think, I just really love that. So I'm putting this one on as a base, the darker one first, just so it's set in. Just enhancing that blue sky there. Now, as I said, I don't have to do that. I could just let the paper come through and put the clouds over the top of the blue, and that's absolutely fine. That's what I feel I want to do. So I'm just going to bring that in just a little bit there. And then again, I'm just going to bring a little bit of this lighter colour over, smudge that in. And as I said, I'm not too worried about that. Make it a bit lighter near the edge, I think, there. Because these are the tone is the same, it will be absolutely fine. Now we can reach saturation point, because if we put too much chalk on, it'll start to rub off. So you'll notice if that's happening, if it starts coming off again. So it's kind of like a learn by error situation, really. You can't really, until you've used your paper, you're not quite sure how much it is. So yeah, bring that in there. Is there any other darker areas? Well, there's a little bit of darker there. And again, it's testing the colours. You're kind of thinking, is that grey? Is it purple? Is it, what colour do you want to go on there with? Let's test it. And you know what? You can pop all those colours in if you think it's one, even if it's not. I'm going to go in with a greyish colour at the side. It's not a colour I use a lot of, but quite happy to get that in. Quite enjoying that difference, to be honest, of experimenting. So with this, I tend to just use the side of the pastel. I'm working quite small, so I might bring in a bit of pencil as well. But if you've only got pencils, use the side of your pencil and kind of get plenty on, get a good coverage. And all we can do within this area is kind of start to build up what colours are underneath. Now, obviously, we've got a bit of, I'm going to use this background to enhance to come through some of the cloud area here that's poking through. Wipe my hands off though. So then I need to think, you know, what am I going to do next? You know, what's the next layer? So you could take this whole middle area, or you can work from the top. I did work from the middle area earlier, but I think I'll work from the top this time. So I'm looking at the back of there, we've got this kind of slightly darker greyish purplish colour. I'm going to let some of this blue come through as well. I'll put just a very small amount. It almost feels a bit, could be a tiny bit reddish in there as well. So just try it. So on here, I can try out some combinations. Maybe not that colour. Or maybe it is just a dark purple. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. That's quite nice, actually. It's a taupey colour. So I'm going to go in with a couple of combinations there. In a bit of this taupey colour because it feels slightly warmer before this other kind of lovely pops of inky colours come on. But it's not so warm. It's still got a bit of a darker tinge. But again, it's just working through, and the same for you, whichever one you're using. Just work out. Now, it doesn't, and this is another one where I'm like, you know, normally we put like the darker in or whatever first. But again, it is a muddyish colour. So that's why I'm not worrying too much about that. Because it does have a kind of a, you know, like a more of a muddyish tone. So again, this is one of the circumstances where it doesn't matter too much if there's a bit, if it's a bit, feels a bit muddy, because it's like, actually, it is a bit. So I'm layering these bits of cloud up here with this kind of muddyish colour. The ones that are underneath, it gets warmer, doesn't it, as it comes towards the sunset, but these ones over here are a bit more in the shadowy area, are just that bit darker. And we're just trying to kind of create, so you can just kind of make circular movements and things like that, really. Whether it's with a paintbrush or whether it's with a pastel, we're just kind of trying to get some of those shapes a bit rounded. Just adding a bit of dense colour to that, still a bit denser colour there. Sometimes it's quite difficult to see where one thing overlaps and the other starts. So all you can do is just do your best to create, you know, what you're seeing, really. And it looks very patchy anyway to start with. So I'm just going to make sure I blow the surface dust off there. And then I'm going in with some of these brighter colours there. So let's have a little look what we've got. So, you know, just work out, is it pink? Is it peach? What colour? Or do you want to just pop a nice pop of colour in there? Because sometimes, again, a pink and a peach together, well, in fact, that's lovely. So I'm going to go in, start to build up. Now, this is where, because we're going over the top, and we want to keep this colour fresh, where we would put plenty on, but just have a slightly lighter touch, especially where we're going over the top of this other muddy one underneath. You know, we may need to place it just a bit more carefully and tap with your finger or a tool. You could use your little tool as well, just to kind of move it across where you want. We want to keep it fresh, so we don't want it kind of to get too muddied up with the underlayer. And then again, you know, where there's any other colours, we can, this one's a similar colour over the top. So again, we can just add in any of those other little colours that you see in there. And we would finish off the top layer. So the reason I'm saying top layer is this particular area has been layered up a few times, but there are some very areas that are quite dusty looking and a bit lighter here. So I want to put those on final layers on of this area of cloud here last, because we want to get those highlights in, because that's how it layers up on the picture as well. So again, I'm just kind of getting in a bit of pressure on there, but then I'm just going to pull that across to try and get that misty effect without really blending it in. So lightness of touch again, and here. There we go. So I'm going that way. It doesn't really matter which way you go, just have an experiment with it. It's just the biggest thing is trying to keep it fresh. So that feels like it's going in different directions, and I feel quite happy with that. Oh. The other thing you might need to watch whilst you're doing this is the side of your pastels. Just give them a little clean off every now and again, because they do end up taking up some of the, you know, other colours in there. Okay, so that's building up nicely. So now I'm going to look into some of these layers and see is there anything else in here I want to add in. There's some pinky ones, because we're using the bright ones. That actually is really effective. So I'm going to bring that so it kind of comes over the top and around there. And again, just nice and soft. You can also use your blending tip if you've got one of those, just to move it around a little bit if you want. Make sure your blending tip's nice and clean as well in between. There we go. And then just keep adding wherever you see a little. So like these, obviously I've got some of the background here. I just want to weave in just the odd pops of light bits around that cloud. It helps create a bit of a 3D effect as well. And you can even do like things like wiggling it like you would with a brush. You know, you're just trying to recreate just a little bit of that lightness of the cloud. It just gives a little bit of shape to it. I'm not popping much in because it is darker over this side, just enough to pop in a little bit more colour. Sometimes just popping a bit of the colour through actually really helps as well. Again, light touch. Start to feel more like clouds as we go through the process. When we build the other bits on as well, but at the moment we're on very patchy ground. Again, we've only got little sections of it. So once we start to build it all the way across, it'll start to make more sense. I'm going to go in with these very dusky, this lighter over here, isn't it? Whereas these are much darker and kind of a taupey or a whichever colour you've gone for. I'm now going to look to do these ones that are lighter. So I'm going to go for a pinky orangey. So I'm going to put that underneath, coming out here. There's a yellow as well. So if you're not sure where to start, just go in with one colour. I'm going in with this pink. So I'm going to try and get some shape. Just draw the edge. I'd like to pop the other colour over to wispy. But you can still blend it like across the sky like that. Bring it over a little bit. Blend it in the middle. but then kind of wisp it over if you want that nice foggy kind of ethereal feel, which is nice. There we go. And then we'll build in a few kind of orange ones because I like that. There, just got this side, you know, how I'm going to put a little bit, not everywhere, but just in where I want a bit more intensity with it. Minding my fingers are clean. Sometimes when we add these, we think, oh, we need to go all light, but sometimes when we put a bright in, it looks lovely as well. And then again, I'm just going to add top layer over these, just a very fine, just in places, just getting a little bit of that through. And obviously there's a lot of cloud underneath here as well, so I'm going to try and get some of that in. I'm going to go a bit more pinky over this middle section here. Pinky and orangey, a bit brighter in this middle. It's a lot to look at when you start to really unfold it, but it's very beautiful. I'm just fixing that in gently with my finger. I'm getting this nice and vivid pink in there as well. Before getting, I'm going to just make sure my fingers are clean because they do get all the colours on there. And then again, going in with, it looks like the under, so I'm just observing whereabouts this goes in. And all we can do really is just keep layering up little bits till we're happy. And there's always like all little wispy ones around here. And it's looking at different types of pinks as well, you know, and what you have and what you can layer up. So I'm going a bit warmer this time, a bit more warmer pink here, maybe less orange, just under there. It only really makes sense once we've got all of it in. So we've got a light orange, let's see. I'm going with this pastel-y one here. It is peachy, but it's kind of might need just a little bit more actual orange in it, I feel. If you've got, you know, the bigger the paper you've got, actually, you know, when you've got A4 or even A5 is helpful. Let's have a look. So I'm going to come away from over here for a minute. I'm going to try and get this corner in just because I feel like I want to see that finish. So I'm just looking at different tones of yellow. So that's quite a bright. Now I'm just trying to work out. I think that's over the top. I feel like there's a bit more of a lemony yellow underneath. We'll just give that a go. Or is it lemon yellow? Let's see. Or is it a lighter, warmer yellow? Let's see. And again, we'll all see this totally differently. So there isn't a right or a wrong answer with it. It could be almost a bit peachy under there. It's up a little bit under. Now again, I'm coming near the blue now. So I am being a bit mindful of how hard I press and tapping it just around that blue, kind of like let it disperse, just gently brush it over because I don't want this, I'll end up with a green sky for sure if I keep doing it. So I'm going to put in there. I want to bring some lemon yellow in here. Yeah, and I'm just getting it on really to start with before I tap it into place. Kind of comes in this middle area as well. Over the top. So this is where you could go in with, you know, a little bit of a tulle Shunamo or not, you know, it's entirely up to you. I need just a little bit of the lemony in there. Now I'm tapping that for a good reason. I don't want to end up with a this, but you could get you know, your little blending tool. The only thing is with any blending tool, you don't want to be pressing it down. Just make sure it's not too dark on there. You know, get plenty on and then move it around. But you will need a good layer on to do that. And still lightly. Otherwise you will end up with this green sky if you kind of get in too much to it. So nice and lightly. It doesn't need to be too blended anyway, because we've got these pops of brights over the top, these ones at the top here. So that, I think that's the way that cloud formation goes, where it's a bit brighter on the top. So we'll pop that in, and again, and I'm just adding those colours again, just kind of nice and sparingly. And then it's looking in, bring a bit of that yellow into here. And I don't need to worry about getting that on this paper because it's a blue paper and it's not like the coloured background like that, so that's nice. So we're just looking really at those colours. So what else have we got? Something light pink on there. Still pinky peachy. I haven't quite got the right colour, that's why I've gone for. So I'm going to probably just do a lighter, not as much pastel on, and kind of blend it. So it's a bit lighter like this in the middle. So there's lots of like just little bits, isn't there? Little bits. Just like that. Keep it moving. And then there are some sort of darker ones in there as well. So I think I'm going to do what I did before. I'm going with a bit of taupe along the top here. In. We're just filling those gaps and trying to decide how to lay them up all the time, which is really nice, isn't it? So lovely. Going with a bit of pink in here. You know, same if you're doing this in paint as well. It's just working out which you're going in with. I'm dropping in a few colours in there, just a little bit. You know, if you wanted to keep those pinks a bit fresher, just kind of just tap them down. Right. So it's still a bit patchy. It's okay. Just look at some slightly little brighter ones on here, coming between here as well. It's a different pink. This is another blue-based pink, just for a bit of contrast there. And let's have a look at the next colours, where the next layers are. So this patch here has got all sorts of colours, but ultimately behind all of it is I'm going to go in with this kind of light peachy yellowy colour and then build those other colours on top. Because sometimes you just need to pop a patch in where you've got a big section, otherwise it just gets really quite confusing. So I think I did that right, didn't I? Put that one for you. So that's the orangey colour. Yeah, it comes all the way down there. So I'm going to put it on very lightly and make it go a bit further. And that comes over the top of here. Even though this other colour's come out here, I'm still going to pop this on as a base. Sometimes we do it just because it's a bit of a mind trick, because we're a bit, you know, you might start to get a bit lost in all of these layers because there's so many layers of cloud as to where you are. So if you're wanting to put a big section on, that's absolutely fine. It does just kind of tie it all together in a way. You can go, oh yeah, that's where the end of this comes to. I get it now, you know. I mean, you could have gone and done this bit to start with. There isn't really a preference. There's lots of nice yellows in here, so that'd be fine. So again, I'm getting near to the edge of this blue, so I've just got to be a bit careful there. I'm going to go over with some pinky bits here, over this side and into the middle. I'm not worried about these getting muddy because they're similar tones again. I'm just going to just go nice and soft with those. And then we've got a yellowy one, so just try that one here, and that will be okay. So again, just going to bring all much of a similar tone here, not over the top with it. Sometimes I don't go into the blue area. I'm trying, this is me trying to match what I can see because I can't find a colour. This is just pop these layers over. We can't really mix them on the paper, but we can, well, unless we scrape off and then mix the colours. But what we can do is we can start to, you know, get colours laid up so we've got a bit of a similar base before we go in with the other colours over the top, which makes it easier. And I know I've got a sharp edge there, so there's a little trick for getting rid of those sharp edges. We've got these yellows underneath. So I'm going to bring that down in a moment as well, but I just want a few more pinky tones to get the top of this cloud. But we'll continue down and get these ones in. So the other ones I am going to clear off my fingers to keep it bright, and then we'll soften down that edge, which happens a lot when we're trying to, you know, overlay and pop in blocks of things. Just soft, 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 soft. Just bring it over softly. Soft. You know, you can even pop just a bit on the and we can't see any green sky there, so that's a good thing. Right, I'm going to get some of this other yellow in. I can see here. Now again, this is in danger of becoming it is in danger if we're not careful of getting in the blue. So again, even though we're going over the top of that yellow, we still need a light touch. Plenty of pressure getting it on. Just a nice dab. Blow off any bits of cloud there. And then just continue over the top, getting those lighter ones on. and then anything that comes over here as well. So we're starting to soften down this whole shape in a moment because of the colours we put over. And again, over this side, I've not got any blue. My background's coming through, so I'm not worried about disturbing any of the blue there. These are all fairly similar warm tones. So now we're just going to work into, you can just end up working into the block here and getting some of those brighter, lighter ones in. So you can see the edge of this, can't you? Got a really bright bit underneath it there. So we finish off with the light. We'll get that lovely shadowy shape there as well, and then it's quite bright under there. It's looking a bit peachy, I'm not sure, but we can just go in and give it a try. Just keep your fingers nice and clean in between. I know I keep saying about it, but it's awful when you've got a lovely, you know, you're getting some lovely colours in there, and then all of a sudden it just turns. So let's have a look where we are. Second, this bit above. Yeah, a bit wispy there. I'm going to put a little bit more shadow into here. This area. I've gone in with a nice purpley colour there just because I fancied that. Just kind of making those a bit more obviously shadowy than the ones that are coming in through this cloud as well here. But you could go in with a grey, you know, greyish colour. Sometimes interesting what you've got in your kit. It's whether you want to keep it warm or cool, whether you can see it. That's why I've kind of gone in with a bit of purple really, but where's the other grey in my palette? Let's see if that will be appropriate. It's a bit too light. Let's look at all the darker grey, darker one. Oh yeah, I'll try that one as well. Just bring in, just on this edge, just these few, because these ones overlap, don't they? So again, we've got to be careful not to muddy with the grey. But I'm just bringing these slightly darker wispy ones over the top, because quite often the wispy ones are the light ones, but now and again you do obviously get with clouds, get the formation where actually the dark ones kind of pop over the top. I'm going to be really careful with how I do this because I need to make sure I don't muddy the rest around it. So again, nice light finger, nice light touch. Bring that darker grey through. Just trying to bring a bit of balance to my painting here now. And then we'll stop in a moment, see how everybody's getting on with that. A lovely one to do, just going to get yourself really lost in the creation of it. Any more, but a bit wispy. Bit more darker here. Bit of all that chalk dust. And these ones that are just kind of popping over the edge here, I'm just going to bring that in a little bit and then just whisk that down nice and steady, because that will turn this cloud muddy as well if I'm not careful. But it's a very interesting cloud formation, isn't it, this, and the way it all kind of comes in. So I want to concentrate on getting some more colours through this middle band here, because I've just got this background bit and then the clouds overlapping, which we can see. So looking at the top one, I'm just going to bring a tiny bit of this grey over this top edge. Just a little bit. And then a little bit here. And it's amazing, once you start to kind of pop a band in, you can start to properly work out where everything is. nice yellowy colour underneath there, but it's hidden quite well. I'll pop this in. And again, this one should be okay under here because it's a similar tone. As long as I don't mix it in with the dark ones there. This will kind of brighten. You see where these yellow ones are coming. I might need to go just a tone down for yellow, so it's not quite so bright in there. There we go. And then down the bottom here, there's a few that come through, don't they, on there? So we're just working through this process. Building these lovely layers, really beautiful layers of colours and pinks in here as well. That are coming out to the side here. Next in here. Nice, just making like touches. Just a touch. And I'm just going to pop in some nice bright little layers in here where you can see these, the undersides of these clouds here. Really nice and bright, but very lightly, light of touch, but plenty of pressure on the paper. And then if there's anywhere else you can see where these light ones need to come in that you perhaps haven't got earlier, then again, just pop them on. Beautiful. This bit of cloud. We're just topping up with the lighter at the top. Lighter, brighter as we come through. Now there is a little bit of a darker one here that I've not quite captured, so I'm going to go in with that. Again, that's got a really nice pop of pink, hasn't it, through the middle there, just seeing that. So I'm going to pop that underneath. It's kind of undulating a little bit under there. And then just get some of this shadow over the top again. Very lightly. There's a lot going on in that sky at the minute. But once we get start to think about the bottom of it, it will make more sense to us. So let's get that in. That's the top of this cloud there. And then any last pops of bright you can see. The best thing to do as well is to really have a little look from a distance, because that's the hardest thing sometimes. You know, it's not, is when you look at it from afar, it's very different. That one. Okay. Nice and bright, right under this cloud here. Went out onto this side as well. So start to see new things, don't we, all the time when we're doing it. I'm really light here that I don't want to get any of this mud in. It's in danger if I do too much, it will. Let's have a bright one in the middle of that as well. There's no reason you can't layer up two different like yellows or anything to kind of get an extra pop in it. Does work quite effectively. Same over here. I'm going to pop a bit of another bright one in the middle here to really give it a bit of an extra pop. And then any other little, little areas as you get down to the bottom there. What I might do is just get a bit of just start to create a bit of this horizon so we can see that something is going to happen with the landscape. When it's darker there, before we just take a little pause. So I'm sure there's a lot to think about, but do stand back from your work. It's really important because we've got a lot of texture and layers of colour, and it really starts to pop once you can stand back a little bit from it. Right, just take a pause there. See how you're getting on. Okay, so just just have a little check over what you've got so far there. You want to break down, because I've actually looked at mine. Sometimes you have to look at it slightly different view, and I feel like I need to just pop a little bit more softness. Sometimes I still feel I've got a bit of a block here. It's because I've not got anything coming down over the top. So I'm just going to break that down with a bit of a light one. And I'm also going to bring that very softly over the top. Just break it up a little bit. Before I go on to the bottom one. Sometimes you just miss some of the little colours in there and you think, oh yeah, I didn't see that when I was working through. I think there's a lot to see. Sometimes when we're doing these, there's just a lot to see. Well, actually, I'm not going to fiddle with that now, because otherwise we can end up with too many bits and bobs in there. I'm just going to bring through just a tiny bit of, a little bit of a pink light through there though. This side. Yeah. Okay, so thinking about the land that we've got here, we've got some that's very much in the shadows. You can see which is a shadow side away from the sun, can't you? Because it's all very dark. And then we've got some slightly lighter ones where the sun's coming over the top here. And then we've got these other patches of slightly bright ones. I think the biggest thing I'd say is just be thinking about what we know about perspective. Darker colours recede, and so do darker, and blue-based colours. So we can use that to our advantage, and kind of, even if we put a pop of colour in here, we can use, we can go in with maybe sort of like a slightly different tone that's not going to be too yellow and bright, that's going to pop forwards, whereas this is the bit that's quite light yellowy. So we can keep that slightly less yellow. You can even go in with a bit of blue-green or something. So it's just like working in those patches of the landscape, really, because I mean, that's actually quite warm over here, that little bit. But again, it is slightly nearer than, let's say, some of these. So let's just have a little look. I think I'm going to go in with testing some colours. I might use maybe an ochre colour in there at the back. That's not too warm. We'll see what I've got with the pencils. I think I might have to go to pencil in here, but just because it's so but yeah, I mean, what you can do is just start to break up the sections that you've got here, so that you can work in those little sections and decide what you're doing with them, with the colours. So this side over here is very dark, isn't it? That one. Get a bit of a curve in the landscape, which is nice. And I'm just almost going to kind of draw in where this shadow is. There's also this lovely path up here which separates as well. So I'm going to look for a real dark blue-green, but I may end up going with brown. It's too light. Some of my pastels don't tend to be that's darker. So we'll go in with some of this colour here. And we don't want much going on near the back of this, because we want the perspective, less detail at the back, more at the front, pretty much, to help us get them. With this, so you can go in all with one colour if it helps, and then just layer up some other darks on top of it. And we've got a landscape there, still quite dark on this top. And then finding a nice dark brown to go over the top of this as well. But I mean, there's so many beautiful tones in this picture. You can kind of go in with whatever you fancy, really. It's not a too warm brown, this is quite a dark brown. But yeah, I'm not going in with massive detail. And especially because you can, if you've got the bigger you go, you can go in a bit more detail because you've got space too, but it's quite a small bit of paper. If you're working smaller, don't worry about that either. And then you've got this gorgeous pattern on here, but I'm going in with more of a blue-green, because I don't want it to pop forward. So let's see what else I've got that's brighter, but not really. There we go. Warmish one there. It's not too warm. Get this down here. That. Now you can get, I've just put like a nice path through there, but you could use your little blending tool. If you wanted a perfectly straight something, you can just use your tool to pull that line all the way through. You can also pull the other colour through it to break it up a bit so it doesn't look too false, you know, because it will be moving a little bit, won't it? It won't be perfectly straight. So I've just pulled that line through as well with this little tool, just with the tip. So they're great for lines, and they're also great for breaking up the lines as well, while we're doing things. So I'm going to go in that similar tone up here where we get that change in the landscape there. I'm not going too bright. It's kind of a mossy green, but it's not a very warm one. It's a cool one because there's more white in this pastel. So again, you know, it's cool and dull enough to get away with that. And I'm going to soften that further with a little bit, but I'm not worried if it gets too muddy either because I want to soften it all down. There's a little bit that goes over that way as well. You can see. Just putting that in. Get that shape. Just soften these bits we can see down there. And then there are tiny bits. I'm not going to go, as I said, try and go into too many details, but what I might do is just put a little bit of some colour so we get a sense that there's a bit of a field or something going on there without actually doing any particular detail, just kind of like some little lines and things. Do you want to get some of this in here where this hillside is? And that's quite, it's, you know, you can think, is there, what colours are in there? Do you want to put purples, pinks, what colour? Or do you want to go in with a slightly warmer brown? You could try all those things. Just see, just have an experiment and a play and just see which tones work for you for that. I'm keeping it a bit softer, just a bit blendy. But yeah, it's lovely to be able to experiment with all these. Some dark ones in again, certain bits of it. Kind of had a really nice play with these grassed areas, can't we? It's beautiful. I'm going with some purple, I think I'll just see if that one works. Maybe slightly warmer over this side. May even have to bring in a bit of a pencil here. I'm not worrying too much about smudging those together, to be fair. Intermingling those. And I'm going in with a bit of probably some ochre or something up here. But again, I would like to soften that bright down a bit. I know it is brighter, but I don't want it to pop forward too much. So I'll work a bit of this ochre in. But ochre's naturally much warmer because it's got a bit of yellow in. Pop that in down, and then what else? What colours can we see? Again, it's like looking at, maybe it is a bit of purple that needs to go over that. Just to not make it stand out too much. pop a little bit at the same time. So many shades that you can play with, and every day you do this, you'll tackle it in a different way and kind of lay down different colours. It's lovely to do that. So let's get some of these kinds of, still a bit mossy over here. In between, we've got this. And there. Just kind of imagining the tones. Still not too much detail at the back of the picture. And then I'm going to bring this path back down. Can't really see it now. Back up to here a bit. And again, I'm going to use my little blending tool. Just fix it in a bit. And I'm also going to just soften down the path itself so it's not too straight, but we get a sense it's kind of coming across like that. I'm going to weave a bit of pink in just because I really like that. On the top there, just a very tiny bit, just to get a sense that there's some heather. Just a tiny bit, and a bit there again. I'll play with that. What else have we got in there? Just keep clearing off the dust, the chalk dust though, so it doesn't get too stale. Right, so as we work forwards, I mean, even this side, even when we work forwards, it's quite dark, isn't it, around here? So I want to kind of get that in. But then we've got these bright bits over this side, starting to come forwards. Still going to get where there's a shadow underneath because we see the depth then of that area. Before we put the other in. I'm just wiggling it up backwards and forwards like that, actually at an angle, just to get some bit of shape in there. Go over with this dark as well. And then pop some of these nice bright rows. So I want a couple of green, probably a more vibrant green. Let's have a look. Or maybe not too, no, it's too bright, that one. I don't think that's going to get used today. Let's see. No, it's too bluey actually. That one will be fine. So one that's slightly brighter to get these in. It almost looks like we've got layers, haven't we, here? Just going to the side below here. Just down there. Almost looks like a field that's been not ploughed, sorry, cut. And then I want this brighter one in. Let's see. Going with this warmer yellow here. I'm going to try between, just get a little bit of interest on that. Cut it down a bit. Again, you know, you can use that blending tool. You can almost create a bit of brush shape in there if you want to. Pull that up a bit. It's quite good for, you know, putting marks into things as well as it is for straight lines. I'm going to warm it up a little bit more though. It's a bit too bright, so I'm going to warm it up with a bit of warmer yellow here. There we are. And then some different areas in here. So I'm going to get my shadows in because there's some clumps of grass. Before I start to layer up those clumps of grass, I want to get this big area of shadow in because I'll need to take that over the top as well. Doesn't matter if it's not exactly accurate, you can always pop it back over. I'm just trying to get some of these because this is nearly all clumps here now of grasses. And I'm just mixing these colours up a bit just to get some shadows. Again, it'll look a bit messy to start with because we haven't put down here as well. It's a bit dark. It just gets the depth of those clumps, so it's quite important we've got something, you know, as a base to pop those other colours onto. Right down this end as well. So, you know, you don't have to go in with browns, but I quite like it on this landscape over this side. I'm just building in these shadowy areas first so that when we finish up with the brights over the top, we won't muddy those colours, we can keep them a little bit fresher. Whereas if we have to smudge these dark colours into them, it's going to get a bit messy. But I do love them. On this particular painting, they work, pastel painting, they work well, don't they? Quite dark there, so I'm just popping in some of these I can see. As I said, don't be frightened of getting those darks down. So we've got a base to work from getting the other colours over the top. Now, do need to kind of make sure that base is nice and free from chalk now. So it's like really now it's thinking about how we get these clumps on here. Let's get a little bit of texture through it. I'll come back to the darker side and then I'll continue on here. So we want, you know, it's all totally up to you. I'm just removing the stone ones out of the way. It's thinking about, you know, what colours do you want to pop in there on your palette? Which kinds of green are you going to go in with? over the top. You know, some of them over this side are still a bit dark, aren't they? So you might just, you know, you can literally kind of layer clumps across like that. As they get nearer, they're bigger, so you can see them. Just kind of pop it on. Plenty of pressure on there. Yeah, these feel a bit still they're in the darker area here. And then they kind of get a little bit warmer, don't they, as they come over? So I'm kind of getting these different palettes of green. So I am going to look now at some bright pops. So, you know, it just depends on, do you want to go on with some, what kind of colours you want? Do you want, you know, you could use anything. You could use some burnt sienna colours. You could use some pinks or some purples as your highlights. Just go with what you think, really. So just kind of pop them. I've got a burnt sienna colour, but the pink would look nice, or a bright yellow. But again, I'm kind of popping on these brights now over the top. Just gently move them with my finger. You don't have to. You can just leave them on once you've got enough pressure in there. And then I'm going to get some little highlights over here with the slightly warmer colours or ochre colours. Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're just layering them up. So we just, you know, you can soften them down as well. So if you don't want like the, you know, some of these texture bits. Then we just add, you know, a couple of other colours through and just give them that kind of lift. As I said, you know, you can really, so if I just took an area here like this, you can totally soften that down. If you want it to be more soft and summery and really just get that kind of real softness like the sky. Or if you like the difference in texture and you think, I love how it's the sky's like that, but then I can really have the texture at the bottom, then by all means use that as well. We're just experimenting as we go with what we like. We don't know till we try. The colours. And then over this side, it's kind of just a little bit more, a few grasses and things in there, like the smaller. Going back, I've just got not as many bumps over there, it would seem. But Got some kind of wiggly little areas of grasses there. So, you can also, if you want to reflect some of those colours from the sky into the landscape, you might want to think, oh, I'll just I'll put a bit of pink in there. I quite like that. And get that all that warmth through onto the landscape. And by all means, have a little play. See if you enjoy doing that. Bit there, it's like warm already. Pink is up here. So we can do all sorts of things like that and experiment like that, really. Amazing. And a few bits of pops of yellow highlights, but not everywhere, just to catch in the occasional one. Because what I want your eye to draw into is the sky, so I don't want to be putting too much in, just enough that it kind of just offers something slightly different. A couple of little colours catching over here. I think they're sheep actually. You can represent them as sheep or you can represent them as something else, but I've really put minimal. It's like almost a suggestion of something there. You can do different shapes in different places, but it is tiny. So, and my sheep are in yellow, just because that's not too bright. You could do them in creamy colour, but it's obviously they're under this shadow anyway, so they would be a slightly different colour. So then you can just go back through and think, is there anything else? Any areas you want to add a bit more of something to? And if you do. It's all good fun. Um, hmm. Yeah, and I think I'm probably going to be to say I'm done there. I think the best thing you can do as well with these is really have another look tomorrow. We really get very close to these. And so you need that. You do need a definite distance from it. So prop it up somewhere and look back to it, for a couple of days and see what you think. I'm going to take this tape off. It does make a difference in terms of even a little piece. It almost gives it a little bit of a frame. And you can, rather than just seeing the colour on the tape. And I use an art specific tape so it doesn't stick to my work. But yeah, so it's just, I hope you've really enjoyed that. It's been absolutely beautiful to do, hasn't it? It's been really enjoyable. Get really into that. It's beautiful when you really connect with the landscape and the things going on in the landscape. It's a wonderful thing. So I hope you've really enjoyed that, and that'll be my final pause. I hope that you are as messy as me. and it will come off, so you'll be fine. All right, well, I hope that's been helpful. That's my final pause. Enjoy.